Hello everybody, my name is Tenelin, and today I'm going to be talking about what prep I am doing during the patch cycle downtime in order to get ready for the release of 7.2. For those who don't know, with the release of 7.2 we will get access to a new tier of Savage Raids, and with that comes new crafted gear. These patch cycles are one of, if not the best, guild making opportunities, and one of my favorite times of the game because we get to have fun gathering and crafting a ton of new items. This patch is not expected until around late March or early April, but we'll cover the basics of what you should spend some time stocking up on beforehand, as there is a decent amount of work we can put in to be ready. If you have never joined in the fun for crafting and gathering during these new patch cycles, please stick around. As long as you have at least some of your Disciple of Land and Disciple of Hands at level 100, you can take the next few months before the patch to prepare, and then you can join in on the fun. And even if you don't have them at level 100, check out my leveling videos for help, and you do have time to still get there. One small disclaimer I do like to put on these videos is we do not know for certain what we will need in order to craft the new gear. These are all just educated guesses based on previous patch cycles and expansions. Because of how Final Fantasy XIV is structured in the way of their releases for this type of content though, we can get a pretty good idea of what's going on. There will be a few minor tweaks that they may throw out here and there just to keep things less predictable, but overall, we can say with pretty strong confidence we know at least the majority of what we will need, and a lot of the stuff in this video will pretty much be guaranteed. Everything that I will talk about in this video is what I am personally preparing, and it's meant to help you understand why I'm doing so and try to give you an explanation into how I'm predicting these types of items. With all that said, let's get into it. This video will be broken down into 3 sections: gathering prep, crafting prep, and other prep. Feel free to skip around in the timeline as each of them will be chaptered. First off, gathering prep. Gathering is the simple and easy to do prep to get ready for patch 7.2. There is a decent list of items that I'm predicting we're going to need, and you can spend some time before the patch getting stocked up and ready to go. On top of that, gathering gear and melding is much easier to predict, which makes it so you can ensure you have your setup ready to go before the patch is out. First off, before you do anything else, you do want to make sure you have the legendary folklore books that were released in 7.0. These are the purple gathering script items that you can buy in Solution 9 for 1,600 purple scripts each. They are available from any of the script vendors as long as you have the Solution 9 script exchange unlocked. I would highly recommend you have both the botanist and miner ones, especially if you have both of the jobs leveled to 100. The fishing one is not as high of a priority for anything related to this video, but it is good to have if you do have extra scripts. Check out my Collectable Gathering video for help on getting your purple scripts if you aren't sure how. Once 7.2 does release, we will get new item unlocks from these books, which will be the new legendary folklore items that nearly every new craft is going to require. These new items will be mostly on the existing legendary nodes that we've had for both 7.0 and 7.1, but will be the new higher tier rarity and will be the most sought after items once the patch releases. There will be no new folklore books that you need to purchase. These are the books for all of Dawntrail. These books are going to be the most important thing on top of having your gear ready to go if you are looking to make a ton of profit once the patch has released. Especially if you're gathering focused mindset individuals, the new legendary folklore items will be insanely sought after, especially for like that first week of the patch. Speaking of gear, I would recommend that you have the latest high quality crafted gear, which is the Everseekers for the armor and the tools, and the jewelry that was released in 7.0. All of this will be up on the screen for you to take a look at. For melding, there are 2 choices that I would recommend. If you're like me and you want to ensure you have the best possible set ready to go for patch release, this is the high tier set that I would recommend. This set should be more than enough to hit the stat requirements for the new legendary folklore gatherables that will be released in 7.2. This set is a bit more costly though, but will be good enough to even use in patch 7.3 with the new items released there as well. The second recommendation is the mid tier set, which will save you a decent amount of gil, but it does have a trade-off of losing a good amount of GP and a little bit of stats. Both will be sufficient for gathering the new items in 7.2, so make your choice based around how you feel. Your main differences are going to be hitting some of the breakpoints for like additional yield or additional integrity depending on your GP, or just hitting additional perception to hit the gathering boon breakpoints for the maximum gathering boon. If you are a more casual player that's going to be wanting to craft up gear for maybe yourself and a couple of friends, but you don't really care about mass producing to sell on the market, then the mid-tier set will be perfect for you. No matter which set you choose though, I do recommend taking your time and gathering up all of the items and materia yourself in order to get your setup complete. I have videos that will help teach you how to make the gear and be self-sufficient so you don't have to buy everything off the market. With the amount of time that you have before the release of 7.2, it's a fantastic time to do so. I would definitely recommend you check out my Spirit Bond for gathering materia guide to earn yourself the materia to pentameld, or my multiple guides for crafting the gear based on your level of knowledge. All of these will be linked in the description, and if you have any questions, be sure to check out my Discord server for help. It's not nearly as hard as you imagine to be able to learn what you need to gather, create, and meld your own set of gear. Especially with the Dawntrail changes to how Spirit Bonding works for gatherers, it's a lot easier to be able to just get yourself a ton of materia so you don't have to buy it off the market. It does take a little bit of time and effort, but will save you millions of gil and give you the knowledge to use in the future. Once you have your gear ready to go, there are a lot of items that you can be gathering now before the patch releases with speculation for their uses. I'll break down each item as we go, as some of these we definitely know we'll need and some of them are only a guess. First off, Aethersands, specifically the Myth Loam, Myth Brine, Myth Root, and Sungilt. We will need these. There should be no new Aethersands coming out until 7.3 if everything does work as it has in past expansions, which I believe it will. Sungilt will be used in nearly every single new item, while the myths will only be used in certain types of gear based on the stats that they provide. My recommendation would be get a balance of 3 Sungilts to 1 of each of the others. I've got a guide for how to gather each type on my channel, and I would recommend just stocking up as many as you feel comfortable getting. These will see a price hike once 7.2 releases. Next up, we know we're going to need this. It's very obvious, but it's something that a lot of people always forget about, myself included. Stock up on your elemental clusters and crystals. Every single craft in the game will use these, and the prices always spike like crazy when a patch comes out because people often forget about them. I just put out a video with a lazy method for gathering these on my channel, so be sure to check that out. For the standard, no timer items that you're going to be gathering, magnesia powder, Ricasnar ore, the Levin silk, clear walnut log, raw black stars, and acacia bark. These are essentially all of the level 98 craftable materials, and if 7.05 stays true, most of the new combat gear will probably use a combination of these items. There's always a chance that they'll throw us a curveball and use a random lower level material instead, just to keep us on our toes. So I wouldn't overcommit to any of these too hard. I'm personally stocking up a few hundred each just to cover the first week if I need them. Past that, I wouldn't gather any of the lower level stuff unless you're really into speculation. One part that's pretty consistent with gear crafting is the essence of the stat that we'll need to implement into the gear. For 7.05, for example, we used the grade 2 gem saps. My prediction is that in 7.2, we will have an upgrade to grade 3 gem saps, and those will use the same basic ingredients, but implement a new legendary folklore item that will come out in 7.2 as well. What do I mean by that though? So for example, the grade 2 gem sap of dexterity uses the Kazamauka chamomile as well as the nopala flower. So I think what we'll end up seeing is that the Kazamauka chamomile and those additional flowers that I'll put up on the screen here will still be used, but the nopala flower will be the new legendary material that we're going to get in 7.2 for the alchemist. And as well, you'll see that all of these use the Yoctel spring water. I'm personally betting that the Yoctel spring water will still be used, but there is a very small chance that it switches over to something like the sanctified water just to make it a little bit more difficult. I'm gonna be stocking up mainly Yoctel spring water and a little bit of the sanctified water just in case, but my bet is it's going to be a Yoctel spring water. So if you're looking to stock up on all of these things, you're going to need the Yoctel spring water, pearl grass, eucalyptus, windsbalm bay leaves, Kazamauka chamomile, and wind parsley. Keep in mind the way that these work, you only need one of each of these ingredients to get 3 of the gem saps, so you don't need nearly as many of these. I'm stocking up about 50 to 100 each, and I'm just getting those for my retainers. So that covers about everything I would recommend you spend your time on for the gathering focused mindset. If you're into extreme preparation, like I said, you can gather a little bit more of the lower level items, some of the level 80 to 90 items, especially the flowers, just in case they decide to throw a curveball and send it back in expansion, but I highly doubt they will. So it's not something I would spend a lot of time on. Now let's get into crafting prep. The first thing you need to worry about for crafting preparation is to make sure you have the right gear and that your melds are either ready to go or you have materia stocked up to meld on day 1. Now I'm going to be going on a bit of a ramble here. Crafting melds are a lot more complicated than gathering melds. I always hesitate to recommend crafting melds before a patch is out, so I just want to put this up on the screen, big bold letters. There is risk to melding your crafting set before the release of patch 7.2. Nobody knows for certain what the stat requirements are going to be for the gear we're going to be crafting. We don't know how difficult the recipes will be, we don't know the control and craftsmanship's best stat breakpoints, or any of that. Everybody that is giving you meld ideas is making educated guesses, and as educated as they can. I personally am also not nearly as educated as some of the other people that make these kind of crafting melds. I only make decisions based on my experience with previous patches and what is provided by other communities, and I try my best to inform you of what I know. And unfortunately, what I do know is I have seen mistakes in the past, and I've made mistakes in the past, where I had to completely redo my melds after a patch was released. These things happen, and in my opinion, it's fun when they do. If Square Enix decides to throw a curveball at us and mess around with the gear difficulty, sometimes it's an enjoyable little speed bump. Because of all this though, I want to warn people. Make sure you understand that melding your gear early can backfire, and there is a chance you're going to be spending the first day removing a bunch of materia and replacing it. If you don't care and you are on board for this, then I'll show you what I've done and you can follow me in my more risky play, or if you want to take the safe path, just stock up on a ton of level 11 and 12 crafting materia and wait until the patch is out for an updated, more accurate materia guide. Usually though, as long as you're able to hit the minimum requirements the game has to be able to start the craft, the difference in melds really only comes down to the amount of high quality materials that you'll need for the craft and maybe the amount of steps that you have to use, as well as the amount of CP that you have in your gear can just vary and what food and potions you'll need to be able to complete it. Sorry for the rant, but I do strive to make sure people are as informed as they can be, and I don't want to deceive people into thinking I have some kind of secret that they don't. I'm just making it as educated a guess as I can, and I'm hoping for the best, but sometimes I can be wrong. Anyway, with all that said, here's my gear and melds. As you can see, none of my tools have any materia or very minimal materia in them at all. I've melded to hit as many stats as I can in a lot of my gear, and I've left my tools open to fill the gaps once the patch does come out. Tools overall are the worst place to put materia in before a patch comes out, because if something happens and you do have to remeld, you have to remeld all of your tools. I'm okay with having to redo 10 pieces of my armor and jewelry, but I'm not okay with having to redo 16 tools, so that's why I focus on melding this way. Otherwise though, I've got a decent stock of backup material, and I plan on crafting more orange and purple script collectibles as well, with an aim to have at least 50 of the level 12s as backup and 100 of each level 11 materia as backup. If you are leaving your gear with minimal materia, then I'd probably aim to double those numbers at the very least. Or if you have retainer storage space, you can just make a bunch of purple and orange script collectibles and be ready to turn them in based on what materia you need once the patch is actually out. The way you decide to meld is such a personal decision, and just really varies on how hardcore you want to go or if you're looking to be a little bit more casual. Just make sure to keep that in mind and do the thing that's going to give you the most fun. It is a game after all. Next up is the most important crafting prep that you can do. We will have new master recipe books that will come out and give us the recipes for all of the new pre-crafts, the gear, food, and potions that we're going to be needing in 7.2. Because we can't buy these ahead of time, the best way to prepare is to have enough purple script collectibles already crafted and ready to turn in once the patch is out. If we assume that the books are going to be the same price as the previous ones, which is 1,200 scrips, we're going to need 9,600 scrips worth of collectibles. For these, I have personally prepared the level 90 Culinarian collectible. I choose this collectible because the ingredients are very easy to get or are very cheap on the market board if you're looking to just save yourself some time, and they can be crafted with trained eye, meaning you only have to do 2 or 3 steps in order to craft them. Just press trained eye, groundwork, and maybe another groundwork again. This saves you a lot of time and effort. To get 9,600 scrips worth, you'll need to have 85 of these, and if you want to be safe in case the books come out a little bit more expensive, go ahead and just have a few extra on hand, or even craft for an even 100 just for good measure. That's what I'm personally doing. On the topic of scripts, stocking up on orange scripts and some additional collectible turn-ins for those is a great idea as well. There will be new ingredients that will be sold from the script vendor in order to craft the new combat foods, and these will be in high, if not higher, of a demand than the gear for the first few days of the patch. The world first and early prog groups will need lots of this food to keep going. I believe these items should sell for 20 orange scripts a piece, and they're going to be culinarian ingredients in order to make that food. So just maybe have a couple thousand orange scripts ready to go if you'd like to try to take advantage of that, or if you're looking to craft the combat food itself. I'm going to have another video that's just going to be talking about combat food and potions. If you're looking for information on that, check back in the future here. For some of the pre-crafted materials that you can have ready before the patch comes out, I recommend having high quality crafts of any of the level 98 materials. Here's a list of them, and if you watch the gathering section, you'll see a lot of the same items, these are just the actual crafted versions. We're going to want to have things like Ricasnar ingots, black stars, Mangasite whetstones, the Gargantua leather, Carol walnut lumber, and Thunderyard silk. Again, we don't know for certain what we're going to be needing, so I wouldn't invest too heavily in those, but I am planning on having about 100 of these each just to be safe. I have a pretty good feeling that we're going to be needing these items. It's also a good idea to have a stock of both the crafter food and the potions, particularly the CP potions. I won't go too much into detail about these here, but you should have some of these ready to go for the stat requirements for the new gear. I'll be putting out another video touching more on those as well. Finally, all other prep that you should be doing. One thing you need to understand about Savage patch cycles is how the evolution of the Allagan tomestones work. Once patch 7.2 releases, our current highest tier tomestones, the heliometries, will move down to the mid-tier tomestone, and the current mid-tier, the aesthetics, will go away completely, with an option to convert the ones that you have into the heliometries, usually at about a 4:1 ratio. Because of this, we're going to want to stock up on both heliometries and aesthetics so that we have the maximum amount available. When this happens, Zircon, the Tomestone exchange vendor in Solution 9, will have some changes as well. The current items available in the other category will have a cost reduction to 10 each instead of 20, but they will also change to require heliometries instead of aesthetics. As well, we will get a new set of items that we'll need for the new crafted tier of combat gear, and those items will cost 20 heliometry each. Because of this, I highly advise that you have 2,000 heliometry stocked up and ready to go before 7.2 comes out. This will let you take advantage of buying as many of the new items as possible on the release of the patch. You can either use this as a solo gil making method by listing them on the market, or you can have a leg up on crafting the new combat gear just a little bit faster. Another great idea is to have a stock of the combat related drops from the bicolor gemstone vendor, and having a good stock of bicolor gemstones for buying any additional items you need. Things such as the Gargantua skins, Tumbleclaws, and Ronique stakes could potentially have more uses in 7.2, so it's a good idea just to have things stocked up. This is very speculative, so don't worry about this too much. I would just at least have bicolor gemstones stocked up in case you do need to buy things from the vendor. Combat materia as well will see a small price bump a week or two before and after the release of 7.2. Now, if you're watching this video early enough, it might be a good idea to grab some of the cheap crit, determination, and direct hit materia early in an attempt to resell it, but be warned, the prices of combat materia are wildly unpredictable around patch cycles, and oftentimes the highest price is like 2 to 4 weeks before the patch, when everybody is actually buying in hopes of selling after the patch hits. In my experience, the price is usually the lowest a few days after a patch releases because everybody starts to panic sell what they have. I personally don't trade in combat materia and rather just stock up via Spiritbonding and dungeons passively, and I look to sell mine about 2 weeks before the patch comes out just to make a little extra pocket gil. And the final thing, and I know this is going to be cheesy, but remember to have fun. It's a video game, we play to relax and enjoy ourselves, and all of the prep work isn't something that needs to be done, but I do find it fun and I enjoy doing it, and I make these videos to help others who do as well. I do hope you found this video helpful, and I would really appreciate it if you could give it a like if you did. Subscribe as well if you want to see more, as I'll be continue to put out new videos once the patch is out, as well as when more content is added throughout Dawntrail. If there is anything you think I missed, let me know in the comment section or join my Discord channel to discuss further if you have any questions. Thank you all, and happy prepping!